Hello, everybody. English 338. I hope you're hanging in there. I hope you're doing okay. This is the time of the semester that's really, really hard. It's the reason why, in the English department at least, we have adopted the phrase, there's no quitting in April, to try to get through the toughest period of the academic year. The one that starts on April 1st, on April Fool's Day, and continues all the way pretty much till the end of the semester. It is a terrible time for faculty, for staff, for students in a normal year. In this year, everything, because of the pandemic, because of the economic job loss, because of the traumas associated with sickness, has been so much harder. And being online doesn't make things any easier. I would have loved to meet you and talk to you all face to face. You all are incredible students and are working incredibly hard. So do not feel shame, do not feel sorrow or depression at this time. Just put the next foot in front of the last foot. Do the next right thing. And you will get through these last 3 weeks. We will all make it. I wanted to talk about a couple of things with English 338, but I first wanted to say I'm going through my own little problems right here. If you notice, my virtual background is this lovely flower. This is the last thing that I saw before I slipped and I busted my knee. You might be able to see right here, I'm panning down so you can see even in virtual background. Yes, I was taking South Rim Trail down to Annie B's through a gully, a wash that I shouldn't have been on, and my knee, I slipped, my right foot slipped and my knee went out first and I landed on my knee, but my right foot was still behind me on the right-hand side and it didn't feel good. And I thought I heard or felt a pop. It went pop and I thought, oh, that sucks. I just went to the doctor. It turns out I still have a tendon or ligament there. It may be torn, probably not, but it could also be a torn meniscus. If it gets better in 2 weeks, then I'm golden. If it doesn't, then of course an MRI will reveal that there's some kind of meniscus tear. In any case, I had wanted to get out of the house a little bit more, and this was my attempt at doing so. I was having a lovely hike with my wife and my 2 dogs. And now I'm stuck using the rice method. Rest, what's the I? Compression and elevation. Oh, rice, just do rice. When you get injured, do rice. So English 338, I want to look at the schedule really quickly. I want to share my screen with you. Ready, set, go. Because what we see once we're there is this. Gosh, it looks like a blank week, doesn't it? Looks like nothing's going on. But you all, of course, know that in different kinds of ways, you are in the midst of thinking through the kinds of choices that you could make for your digital story. I have worked with many of you in the past week, and I've been cheered by the conversations that I've had because I think we've pushed past that clean up our parks stage that many of us were at. For many of us, we were just trying to figure out what are the larger maybe implications of saying that this area needs to be protected more than it is, or we need to do a better job personally at protecting this area, or environmentally, we need to think more sustainably about it. What I tried to do in my comments when I was working with individual people was to say it's not an individual problem. There are structural problems that we've read about for the entire semester that encourage us to sort of work together, and that working together will be the only way that we solve the intractable problems related to global climate change, technology, plastics in the oceans, species declines, coral bleaching, acidification of the oceans, and so on. No one person can solve these problems, and focusing only on the litter right in front of you may be obscuring some of those larger issues. This is why some people have started to be opposed to that kind of carbon footprint modeling that people do, because it seems to put all of the onus on individuals to clean up climate change when fully 70 or 80% of global climate emissions are from big corporations trying to sell us products. Okay, so when we look at this week, we are not seeing a blank slate, a week to take off. What we're seeing is I'd like to see some extended comments and peer feedback on two people's draft digital stories. In whatever form they are, get in there and respond to them like you would a paper. Point out what's working for you, what is interesting to you, what stands out as being particularly important, commend them for that work and ask them to do more of it. But then also point out what questions you have, what seems to be a little bit unclear at this point. What are the kinds of things that they can do to make this project more a digital story, more, as we'll talk about, unexpected, more creative, involving more science or involving more myth, right? Then I'm hoping, and this is a hope rather than a drop dead deadline, I'm hoping you can get your revised digital stories to me by Friday. I'll make sure that there's a current community thread open for us so that you can drop your revised digital story there. But in addition to that, what I want to make sure that you understand is that I'd like you to do a little bit of writing. Now, this reflective writing could be particularly useful in the early stages when there's still a chance that you could be revising your digital story. Whatever form it takes, as a video, as a photo essay, as an ArcGIS story maps, section 1, it's really interesting. At least 10 people have chosen to do the ArcGIS story maps, and I am overjoyed because you're trying on a new platform and doing really interesting things with it. There are several that are really good that use a combination of video and still photos and then mapping to show the extent of a problem or the extent of the solution to give us a kind of a geographical sense of how something is spreading or not spreading or what might happen in the future. This is what maps can do. The rhetoric of maps would be a really interesting course in rhetoric. Maybe I'll teach one in the future. So what I'm asking you to do here is, you see right here below the link, I'd like you to write 2 paragraphs explaining how your project embodies 2 of the aspects of success, the success model that we talked about in week 8, or the big 5 that we just read from Dana Cloud. Now, this is important. It is up to you, but it gives me a good sense of where you are in thinking about this project, that you would select 2 different terms to describe the kinds of things you were trying to accomplish in your digital story. What does that mean? How did you keep your digital story simple? How did you make sure it was credible? What are the kinds of unexpected things in your digital story? And how should we read those unexpected moments? Are they unexpected moments, unexpected sources, unexpected cast of character? Or you might choose some of the terms from Cloud's Big 5. How is your project embodying myth, for example, or narrative, or even what she calls spectacle? That is, trying to capture our attention with outlandish statements that may kind of bring home to us the absurdity of a situation or the extreme thinking or actions that we need to adopt in order to get certain kinds of environmental change done. So what I tried to do is to reinforce to you that one of the ways that you start on this reflective part is to get back into perusal and make sure that you understand the definitions that you might choose. But choose any 2 that seem to describe the project you have built. That is great. Then once you do, you've got a lot of different options for describing, but make sure that what you do is you provide details from the digital story that you created to support the points that you make. Very important that you be specific here, that you say something to the extent of, okay, so here's how I embodied spectacle in my digital story. You'll see in the first minute of my video, I did X, Y, and Z. Great. Or you'll see toward the end, I used this really great video that I'd grabbed from such and such a place in order to do what? Tell me, right? So that is what's important here. It's not just that, once again, that you build a digital story, but you built it for a particular audience for a particular purpose. Like we've been talking about the entire semester, rhetoric is thinking about audience, purpose, and genre. Rhetoric is trying in different kinds of ways, dogs barking, to help us understand how persuasion happens, right? So if these are tools of persuasion, if these basically 10 or 11 things we get in the success model from Finkel and Leon and Cloud's Big Five, which two, just two, maybe more if you want, but which at least two seem to be the ways in which you're using rhetoric in order to reach that audience. What are you trying to accomplish with your digital story? For which audience? And remember, our idea of audience is that you address the audience who needs to learn about your issue, this issue that you care about. They need to learn something new. Quintilian's idea of teach, please, and move. Teach your audience something, some new or maybe unexpected way to look at an old environmental issue. Please them with edifying images and language, and then move them to act. I am not your primary audience, although I will be ultimately the one who's grading these projects. I am your secondary audience. So I do not want you to talk directly to me. And I do not want you to say, this is a project for Chris Foson's class. You like hide that. You're a public actor engaged in public rhetoric. You are releasing a video born digital into the world in which people can respond to it in different ways. And the hope maybe is that someone sees the thing that you have built and maybe is able to rethink their position on this issue, maybe is able to take action even in a small way based upon it. So that is that week right here. What I wanted to say overall after that, though, is if we come back to this schedule right here, you'll see that all of this is due by Friday. Now, I understand that for some of you, this might be a very busy part of the semester. It's almost as if all of your professors get together in a small room, twirl our nefarious mustaches, and agree that all of the biggest projects and the most collaborative work that you do the entire year is due on the exact same day at the exact same time. We've all bought, stock in Red Bull and other companies like that, and we're making sure that, we're all growing rich on Red Bull stock because you're having to buy cartons and gallons of it. You're having to buy it in bulk in order to survive the last 3 weeks of the semester. That is not true. However, it does seem to fall that the biggest and most cumulative works of the semester, the ones that involve the most synthesis and the most energy on your part, do seem to fall at the end of the semester. It's not ideal. But what we have after this then is an extended reflection. It is a final informal paper in which you explain to me basically what you have learned in this course. What do you take away from this course in the future? What do you think about rhetoric now? What do you feel you've learned? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? How will you use rhetoric in the future? In what kinds of ways will you apply what you've learned in this class to your future action as environmental soldiers? Okay, so that's what we're talking about here. We will have several weeks after you turn this in. If you need a little more time than Friday, this Friday, that's fine, but hit me up by email. Tell me what you need. I'll give it to you, but tell me what you need. Give me a sense of when I can expect it. That's fine, but we can't let these things drag, because what is happening the final 2 weeks of the semester, weeks 14 and 15, and maybe even the finals week, you may have some revisions you want to do of that rhetorical analysis paper. You may have some revisions of the digital story you'd like to do. You certainly will have that reflective, informal reflective essay to write for me. So there will be work to do. As always, set up a Zoom appointment with me if you have any particular questions about what's going on. If you have any issues or challenges that hit you in the face, just email me and we'll set up a time to talk. and also keep me in the loop about how your project is going. I would love to be of assistance for you during this week and maybe a little bit into next week as these projects are coming to a close. Okay, so thank you. And I'm going to post this video right now and try to get some memes out to you to make you happy.